Your Excellency, President Alassane Ouattara, Mr. Vice President, Honorable Ministers, Mr. Inspector General, ladies and gentlemen. Bienvenue à tous et merci pour votre présence dans votre beau pays, la Côte d'Ivoire. On behalf of the board, staff, and alumni of the Africa-America Institute, I want to thank you for joining us at this 4th annual State of Education in Africa Conference here in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. I would like to express our sincere gratitude and deep appreciation to our host country, the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, and local partners in Abidjan who have made this conference possible. We're particularly honored to host this year's event in Côte d'Ivoire and to have the presence of His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, President of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, as a distinguished featured speaker at this conference. I will say more about our connection with the President shortly. I extend a special note of thanks to our presenting sponsor, the Ford Foundation, and our esteemed sponsors and partners, IE University, TREC, the My Family Foundation, the Jim Ovia Foundation, Greystone, the Financial Times, and Ethiopian Airlines. The theme, as the Minister told you for this conference, is shifting paradigms, building future capacities and new narratives through African education. We've chosen this theme because we believe that as an organization, we're going to devote ourselves to two central pillars. One is the role of higher education in preparing pathways for youth to livelihood. The second is that we believe that in addition to your education, preparing and equipping you for pathways to productive and satisfying livelihoods, it's also the best way to give people context about the world they live in and to be inspired by the history that they all come from. And so we think both of those are very, very important, and this is going to be our focus going forward. We hope that the conversations here, which began, many of them at our last conference, will continue beyond this conference. And we had a very good working session led by Professor Phil Clay from MIT yesterday with many of you in this room about what we can do to help transform higher education going forward. And we look forward to working with you on this new and exciting project. Before I introduce the President, I just wanted to reemphasize our gratitude for the generosity of all of you. And we really appreciate your support and attendance at this conference. So, it's always difficult when you're given the task of introducing the person who needs no introduction. So, I think you all know of the President's history of leaving Côte d'Ivoire to pursue his education in the United States, of becoming a young development banker and economist at the IMF, of becoming a leader of the Central Bank of West African States, and becoming the first African to obtain the status of Deputy Managing Director at the IMF. What you may not know is that education has been at the center of his public service. So when he served as Prime Minister, he helped lead the commission that was coordinating all the ministries for the stabilization of the economy of Côte d'Ivoire in 1990, which then led the first president of Côte d'Ivoire, President Kofi Appenteng, to appoint him as Prime Minister, where after he stabilized the economy, he then went on to help open another university. And in his current administration, there have been 3 universities opened, and there's 2 more scheduled before 2020, and 5 more scheduled after 2020. So he has put education at the very center of the plan to transform the economy of Côte d'Ivoire. And so it's particularly fitting for us to bring the conference here when we have a leader that is so focused on education as being a central part of what's going to be necessary to transform the economy of Côte d'Ivoire. For me, it's especially meaningful personally because of my association with 2 institutions that have played a role. As you know, when people live good, productive, and successful lives, many people claim credit. And at the Africa America Institute, we're very proud of the association. But I believe also the Ford Foundation has also played a role in providing scholarships for His Excellency. And it's been my privilege to serve on the board of the Ford Foundation for 11 years. The last 4 as board chair. And when I leave here, I'll be chairing my last meeting as board chair before I complete my 12 years of service next year. And when I told my fellow colleagues on the board, they said, make sure you mention that it's not only the Africa America Institute. So the Ford Foundation is very proud to have played a small role in what has been a very productive life. So we have noted the focus on education, and we are also watching with excitement as the new innovation centers, which are incubating entrepreneurs, are taking shape. I believe there's about 30 enterprises that have been incubated so far, and we think it's an important tool to really encourage young people to become entrepreneurs. So without any further ado, I will get out of the way and let the man who you've come here to listen to come to the podium. So, Mr. President.